All right, everyone, welcome back to the Poet Speaks podcast, the number one spoken word podcast in the world. I'm claiming it into existence. All right,
Yes.
so today we have a very, very special guest. She's a Nigerian-born, Colorado-raised, multidisciplinary artist. She's a scholar. She's a medicine woman. She's a consultant. She's the founder of the Palm Wine Collective, a Black creative arts collective. In 2015 to 2016, she served as Denver's first Youth Poet Laureate. She was announced in 2017, one of the Roots 25 Young Futurists. She is the author of 3 poetry books, How to Become a Lightning Storm, Honey, and Omi Ebi Me. Her visual art and music has been published and distributed internationally. Her art is a reflection of ancestry, the rituals of healing, and her present in the shapes of her dreams of the future. Please welcome to the Poet Speaks podcast, the amazing Toluwa. How are you today? How's everything going?
It's going well. It's going well. Yeah, we were, just talking before about it being a deep time of transformation, but I'm very thankful to be doing to be in the space that I am and to be able to go through that. And so I feel good. I feel good about that.
I'm happy to hear that. You, as I just read off, man, you have been doing your thing for a while. I mean, you served as Denver's first Youth Poet Laureate. I mean, 3 anthologies that you've published. You've done TEDx talks. Tell us a little bit, how did you come into writing? And I know Nigerian born, Colorado raised, that is like total opposite ends of the spectrum. Nigeria and Colorado. Tell me where did you begin? Where did your origins begin? Being born in Nigeria, but you moving out to Colorado and writing infused with that. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So I have been writing ever since I could write, ever since I could form sentences. I've kept a journal. And for me, it was kind of an escape because I never really, felt fully integrated, fully like I belonged in the spaces that I was in. And so writing kind of like gave me an outlet to create and imagine other worlds, other ways of being. And it still gives me that access today. But in terms of sharing my writing with other people, it wasn't until after I graduated high school that I actually started going to poetry open mics and, very hesitantly sharing my words. And then Colorado just has a really, I was in Denver at the time, and Denver has like a really incredible poetry community. And so they really embraced me and nurtured my gift in many ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think people would be shocked to find out Denver, of all places, I think in the States has you say it's a vibrant writing community? Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many writers, so much support for writers out here. Yeah, it's really incredible.
Now that's really fascinating. Tell us a little bit more about so you're Nigerian born. When did you move to the States?
I was really, really young. I was like 4 when I came over with my parents.
Yeah.
So I was still, forming and shaping my ideas of the world, but I still remember a lot of things very distinctly because even after we got over here, my parents made sure that I would go back and visit
Mm.
uh, back home a lot.
Nice. Nice. How did that inform your writing? Because I know you kind of, not kind of, but you completely, your work is definitely a reflection of the Nigerian rituals, Nigerian ancestry, indigenous roots. How has that affected your writing, being a Nigerian person?
Um, well, really, just as you said, it's my ancestry and figuring out, what it means to be Nigerian in America, what it means to not lose a very important part of myself, has really informed my writing. And the fact that being in diaspora, there's a lot of culture that is evolved within me. And so writing really helps me to make sense of all of that.
Mm. You said evolved within you. How do you think that culture has evolved within you, and like especially as you've grown as a writer, as grown older? How do you think that Nigerian culture, how is it kind of displayed in these different stages then, I guess, of your life?
Well, I would say it's more of, I guess, a mixing, because I don't live the same way as my ancestors did. I don't even live the same way as my parents did when they were in Nigeria. And so the culture, as I live, as a Nigerian person, I carry, inherently that culture within me, but then it starts to change and starts to take different shapes. When I'm in America, it starts, it can be anything as, as small as, the way that I wear traditional clothing, maybe, mixing it with a different kind of style, all the way to the way that I practice Indigenous spirituality and how that is, looks different because I am here.
No, absolutely. I think that's a interesting kind of points you bring up. It's this idea of we're not living in the same way our ancestors do. But it's like at the same time, you want to take tradition, you want to take that oral tradition and still pass it on, but you want to take the good parts, right? You want to take the non-oppressive parts. You know what I mean? You want to take the liberating parts more than anything. It's interesting because growing up in a Nigerian household, I feel like the three careers that you can either have is doctor, lawyer, or like PhD holder. At least for me, that's how it was. I'm curious, in your household, was it celebrated you doing poetry, you being a spoken word artist, writing? Is that really celebrated through your folks?
No, it wasn't until I started getting like national attention.
Dang, yeah.
It really wasn't, anything that they really cared about. It was something that they still to this day are like, it's like, a really nice hobby that you
Jeez.
have. But
Man.
yeah, and in many ways I had to accept that, that's just not, part of my family to celebrate that, at least, directly to me. So yeah, I'm sure that they enjoy it in their own way, but yeah, there is definitely a disconnect there, that I don't really address all the time.
Yeah.
Unless it's in my writing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a disconnect. But I'm curious for you though, how do you want people to connect with you through your writing? What do you want people to truly understand when you write?
It's so interesting you say that because I feel like I don't write for anyone in particular. Um, I mostly wrote for myself. It was mostly ritual for me, to exercise. And I was like, okay, cool. People hear it. This is, and I guess sharing it is part of, my own human desire to not disappear in silence, and my own human desire, to just be understood in some ways, even if it's, yeah, just to be understood, just to speak truth, my own truth, and have that be known. But it's mostly a ritual. It's mostly a ritual for myself.
Mm. Ritual. No, I like that. The idea of ritual is how you consider yourself as a writer. So it's almost like a self-care for yourself, being able to put your words out. Now we talked a little bit about before we began, and I think I know I've been here myself, the idea of the time for you being a bit more transformative as of right now, even through your amazing, accomplishments, anthologies, poet laureate. For you right now, it's this idea of transition. Could you talk a little bit more about that, about how writing for you, where are you at with your writing right now? What's the mindset for you?
Right now my writing is I'm kind of coming back to it slowly, and allowing myself to ease into it and come back to it like ritual. Um, so it's providing a lot of healing space for me right now. That's the main mechanism or the main purpose of my writing right now, is to provide a lot of healing space.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
How,
I don't necessarily go to open mics or do competitions right now. I know that, I might in the future, but right now there's a lot of self-healing that I'm having to do.
yeah. No, I think that's so important for people to hear and for writers to hear, especially because I think you can get kind of trapped in the acclaim of it all, if you will. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's this idea of just keep on producing and writing and keep writing poetry. But I think a lot of the time people forget that, us as writers, we're not niches. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
not machines either. Like a lot of it is so much self-work comes into this idea of writing, really putting yourself out there on that page and on that stage as you do your spoken word, as you do your poetry. Um, what for you, what do you think if you could maybe look into the future, what do you think your kind of end goal for you is in terms of your spoken word? I know you talked about for you it's ritual, but would you say you have any totality end goals for what you truly want, let's say you're writing to do for
I'm
yourself or for other people?
I'm still figuring that out right now. I feel like I'm having to reconfigure what that is. I'm
Mm,
having to ask myself the question of what I want all over again, um, which I think is good. I think it's good to reevaluate, um, and keep myself honest, and I think that I'm in the space where it's okay for me to say, like, I don't know right now. I gotta find that
yeah,
out. I gotta figure it out.
yeah. Nah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. The I don't know, I think sometimes can be the best space to possibly be in. Absolutely, because you just never know what could come next. So for you, in totality, what do you think people can take away from the art of spoken word?
Um, just as you said, spoken word is ritual. Spoken word is, writing, releasing is one of the oldest forms of magic that we have. Um, and it's one of the most accessible forms of magic that we have, that we can all practice. You don't have to train for years and years in order to make or create spoken word pieces that are heartfelt in order to speak your truth. Um, it's a practice of courage. Uh, it's a practice of empowerment.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. A practice of encouragement and a practice of empowerment. For you, you think it's more so, do you think in when it comes down to it, do you think the spoken word artists, do you think they do it for themselves or do you think they do it for the people in which they send their message to?
I feel like for everybody it's different. Whatever your, I guess, initial engagement with it, that I feel like that definitely sets the stage, sets the flavor, of how you're experiencing. Because I do know a lot of people who are in it for, whatever fame it could possibly bring them. And they research, all the different kinds of poems that they could possibly write and who's writing what right now. And, maybe I should do that. Or, people who scan the headlines constantly looking for a poem. To me, that's very interesting. I'm sure they have their reasons for it and their methodologies. But yeah, I know people doing spoken word for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I think it can go either which way. It can be very self-serving, obviously, but it can also go and I say self-serving because I think it's the idea of when you do spoken word, you really are on a stage all on your own, like all attention on you. You know what I mean? You can tell you control the pace, you control the room. And for some people, that method, that's a very enticing sense of, I guess, quote unquote power that you could get from that. You know what I mean? It could be very self-serving. So no, and then, on the other hand, for a lot of people, they consider it like a divine duty to come on stage and really speak to what's truly in their spirit and their soul. So I think for a lot of people, it can go both ways, or a multitude of ways. Maybe even in the future, that could be me, right? A self-serving at this time of your life, you needed that self-serving, maybe a boost of validation, which is being on stage and being the only one talking, right? It's very multifaceted because people are so multidimensional, especially as writers.
Yeah.
So a little bit about your writing. I know we had talked previously about how the idea of publishing is really hard. Getting support for what we do is hard. Talk a little bit about your experience with that, getting support, whether through funding, whether through family, friends. How was that experience for you becoming a published author, becoming just getting that support in total?
Yeah. I might not have done it the best way. Like for the most part, my first book that I self-published, I was my main support. I did it all, myself. I paid for it all myself. But then with my second book, I got published through Penmanship Books. And that came as an opportunity from being the Youth Poet Laureate. And which was like a really, really special opportunity. And it was definitely interesting, even though one of my literary heroes was the one who was the editor of my book, Mahogany Brown.
Wow.
Edited my book, How to Become a Lightning Storm, and walked me through the process of choosing the poems that felt the most on fire for me. Wow. And were the most cohesive. That was really, really a blessing to learn what it took. I also saw that there was a lot going on, and it's hard giving your work to somebody else to scrutinize, but it's interesting and necessary. That collaboration is really, really necessary. It is another form of support. And then from there, the support, whenever I poured my genuine energy into anything, whether it was, submitting a poem to be published or whatever it was, it always seemed to work out as long as I was sincere.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's a good point you make. Like, I found myself too, like, whenever you have, if you have just a genuine project, a genuine piece that you just want to pull out, you will find support from people. It may not even be the people that, maybe you'll get the most support from people you've never met a day in your life, though. That's the trippy part I find more than anything. Like, I feel like I found support in people that I didn't even know that would just contact me. And they were probably some of the biggest supporters I ever had, as opposed to people that I'd known for years. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I think it's part of it too is, for me at least, I see it as, and you tell me what you think, I think it's being able to accept the support, because that support
Yeah,
comes in different packages,
it
you know.
does.
Yeah.
It definitely does. Oof. Yeah. Being able to know how to accept and ask for different kinds of support and know what kinds of support that you need.
Yeah.
Um, which, believe it or not, has always been really hard for me, because asking for support is kind of like asking for help.
Yeah.
Um, and like I, in the past couple of years, have just really been learning how to actually do that, and not just say, hey, I need support, or hey, I need help, but really going in and understanding, what do I actually need support and help with.
Yeah.
And then you start to notice, actually there are people all around me who can provide these kinds of support, and I can come to them, and when I come to them and ask them for that very specific thing, they're always super receptive of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with writing, I found more than anything, it's such a, like, you would never even believe like who is such a fan of writing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People keep it so close to their chest, and who's a fan of poetry and spoken word. You would
Yep.
find so many people really do love it, but I think part of it is too, like, coming out and being able to really, go full in with it. I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
do hesitate, but so many people are really wanting to hear it, wanting to read it, wanting to see it. And no, absolutely, this idea of being able to get that support is so key. Yeah, no, I feel I could do a whole podcast on support. Being
Right.
able to receive it, being able to ask for it. I mean, really, it's a whole thing. It's a learned skill. I definitely, for myself, have definitely been like, yo, you gotta know how to do it. I mean, really, and I hate this term, but it's like the closed mouth doesn't get fed. I hate saying that, but it's in a
It's
lot of
very
ways,
true.
it's very true. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't really make it known, you have to be your biggest supporter. And by that, I really mean you have to be your biggest advocate. So it's important to always remember. So before we wrap up, I always ask this to my guests: why do you have to get your words out?
Because if I don't, they will consume me. They will absolutely consume me. And I've watched it happen. Um, I'm the type of person where, like, when I say poetry is my medicine, poetry is my medicine. And when I don't take my meds, I want to fight people in the streets. I want to, it comes out of me in other ways.
Yeah.
And so, like, writing is the safest for me in that sense.
More,
Yeah.
yeah, poetry is your medicine. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So tell me, what do you have coming up 2021, 2022, that the people can look forward to?
Well, I have a couple of projects that are like near and dear to my heart that I hope to be releasing,
Mm,
including an illustrated book by 2022. Not like early, obviously, but hopefully by mid 2022, I can have an illustrated book out.
nice.
Um, I've been like starting to write the foundation of it and everything, and it's really unraveling me. This is like a mix of poetry and essays and just like memories. Um, and so I hope to be releasing that next year. Um, and yeah, a lot of crochet.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what I'm doing right now. A lot of crochet. It's definitely something that has also been medicinal for me, is working with my hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of handwork and heart work is what you can expect from me.
I love that. Handwork and hard work. Writing is her medicine, and y'all need the medication because she's amazing. So tell us a little bit where we can find you. I know you have your anthologies out. Tell us where we can find your work, whether it be online, website, Insta. Please do. Please tell.
Yeah. So my website is actually going to be it was Instagram where I was sharing most of my work, but I'm transitioning to my website where I will be making a lot more of my poems available for people to read, especially the ones that don't necessarily belong to a particular book, but are kind of floating out there. I'm going to put that up on my website. Essays that I've written. Some of them will be attached to my Patreon because I'm like, I'm an artist and I need to eat too. So some of these will be attached to my Patreon where, you can read snippets of it on my website. And then if you follow my Patreon, you can unlock the full version. I also have writing guides on my Patreon. And yeah, so my website, www.toluwaobi, that's TOLUWAOBI.com, is where you can find most of my work. I have a digital art gallery on there. I have my shop on there. And of course, my writing will be on there as well.
Phenomenal. So everyone, her links will be down below so you all can check out her phenomenal work. Check out her website as well as links to her books and anthologies and all her socials. Well, Toluwa, thank you so much. This is a great episode. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Me.
Absolutely. No, thank you for coming on. This was great. And everyone, this is the Poet Speaks podcast. We will talk a little later. Bye-bye.